Hello, ni hao, marhaban, alu, privyet, annyeonghaseyo. I'm Brian, and this is Writing Systems. The story of writing begins with pictograms. Cave people drew on the walls of caves for as long as they were people. Why is it getting closer? Oh, oh, ooh. Well, initially these drawings were actually representations of the actual object, one symbol per idea. Well, doesn't that remind you of something? Well, the reason why ideograms are not used as legitimate writing systems today is because they can't represent our complex society, and frankly, that's why we've moved on to better systems. While the Egyptians are writing down their hieroglyphs and the Incas messing around with knotted strings, the Chinese are brewing something very different. Legend has it, a four-eyed man named Kang Zhi was tasked by the emperor to invent new characters for his kingdom. Having gained, well, no progress that day, he then saw a phoenix drop the impression of a footprint in front of him. Having found out it was the print of a legendary animal, Kang Zhi realized his characters had to show the special qualities of every entity on Earth. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why over 1 billion people on Earth have to memorize thousands of symbols for Chinese. Now, well, obviously, that's not the real story. The truth is just as interesting. Originally, like all human societies, the Chinese used pictograms. But over centuries of iteration and a sort of graphemic telephone game, they were simplified into the characters we see today. Chinese utilizes a system called logography, where there's a grapheme for every single word. Logographs also carry phonetic information as well, and going down the route of assigning sounds to symbols brings us to ancient Sumer and the creation of the syllabary. The Sumerians had decided to do something strange with their pictographic creations. Instead of keeping the simplified one symbol per word like Chinese, the Sumerians developed the system further. In Chinese, characters are monosyllabic. The Sumerians took the concept further and developed the syllabary. Given that each syllable had one consonant and one vowel, the Sumerian script could be represented using only 16 consonants and 4 vowels. This, including bare vowels, give the total amount of possible symbols in the language 68. Let's look at this made-up word I made up in Sumerian. Remember, they use cuneiform. Ba, ke, lu. Another example of a syllabary, some may be thinking about this already, is Cherokee. Sequoyah invented a syllabary in the 1820s for his language after seeing the marvelous invention that the white men were using. Oh yeah, and Japanese uses two syllabaries, hiragana and katakana, but whatever. Around 900 BCE, the world of writing was beginning to pick up, and a small seafaring civilization would soon use a creation that shaped the very way hundreds of millions today speak worldwide, the Abjad. Not the alphabet, but they made a huge contribution to its development as well. The Phoenicians, essentially a Mediterranean trading corporation, saw the Egyptians utilizing a very strange system of writing. Now, by this time, the Egyptians had outgrown hieroglyphs and had simplified the characters into hieratics. While the Egyptians came up with the idea first, the Phoenicians popularized the very important step of associating certain symbols with their own sounds. But unlike a true alphabet where consonants and vowels have their own symbols, the Phoenician script was an abjad. Any speaker of Arabic would know how this works. There are only symbols for consonants, vowels are inferred by the reader. Now, the symbols for consonants are completely arbitrary, as long as they correspond to a consonantal sound. Before we get to the alphabet, there's just one more step. Around 500 BCE, the Aramaic script had developed out of the Phoenician script. It was also an abjad, but did give rise to the Devanagari script, which is an abhagida, along with many other Brahmic scripts. The difference between these and the abjads is that they made it a requirement to include vowels, but not in the way that you think. Instead of creating new symbols for the vowels, abhagidas simply modified the existing consonantal grapheme. Let's look at another abhagida spoken in Canada, Inuktitut. In Inuktitut, the modification of the consonant is done through rotation of the symbol. Palayan is a transliteration of my name to Inuktitut. The arrow shape indicates a P sound, and the pointing right gives you the A sound, and so on and so forth. Now, even the distinction between vowels and consonants is beginning to appear. It's amazing to think how these simple pictures representing, well, pictures, could evolve into such abstractions as these.
Raps rising up rapidly, riding the rushing radioactivity, super scientific sound search.
Okay, finally we get into some familiar territory. The alphabet is by far the most widespread type of writing system worldwide. In many cases, the alphabet is the preferred choice for transliteration due to its phonetic flexibility. It also has one of the richest origin stories, and it starts with the Greeks. Around 500 BC, the Greeks had adopted the Phoenician abjad and converted many unused consonantal graphemes into separate vowel sounds. The important thing now was that the consonants and vowels had their own separate symbols. From the Greeks, the Romans borrowed that, stole and added some new letters, and we end up with the Latin script used by almost 5 billion people worldwide from Ushuaia to Ho Chi Minh City. And out of Greek rose another script, Kyrillica or Cyrillic. The structure of an alphabet is pretty straightforward. One symbol, remember, this is so far removed from pictures, it could be literally any symbol you want, per phoneme or sound. Now, the individual sounds in a word are pulled apart, but we're not done yet. Finally, we reach the limit of human graphemic abstraction, ending with the featural system, the most significant one being Hangul. It was developed by the current king at the time, Sejong the Great, in 1443 when he was frustrated at Koreans' use of Hanja, or adapting Chinese characters to Korean phonology. Thus, he sat down and created Hangul. It was revolutionary. Instead of assigning completely arbitrary symbols to consonants and vowels, Hangul graphemes convey information about the sound while having zero connection with the actual meaning of the word. For example, t utilizes 3 separate features. The line on top signifies a plosive like p, d, or k. The middle line signifies aspiration or adding more air at the end. The bottom line signifies an alveolar consonant. Additionally, most letters kind of look like what the mouth looks like when pronounced. This makes Hangul extremely easy compared to other scripts. And that's as far as we go. The very way you say something can now be represented by one symbol, from pictures of reality to the pictures of the words themselves. Thank you for watching. I chose to do this topic in order to gain a better understanding of how the world expresses themselves. In the US especially, many don't bother getting out of their bubble and trying to understand the other, leading to many of our world's problems. I hope this has broken that cycle. And it seems I'm about 2 minutes longer than I should be, so I'll get out of your way.